You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
Welcome back to Where You Live. We're broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios. Before we get back, I would like to just say a special thanks to all of the sponsors that we have here on Where You Live. And folks, if you hear their ad and you run into these folks, tell them that you heard their ad here on Where You Live. Before we get back into our conversation, we're talking to Coon Rapids Housing Inspector Leah Drabchek about what the city of Coon Rapids is doing in a real positive way in working with people that have been hoarders, that have had garbage homes, and they have a real unique approach and are seeing some great success. Before we get back, though, I'd like to just let our listeners know also in hour two here that we have a great resource for you. It's a bi-monthly newsletter called What's New. A lot of the topics we cover on the show is also covered and further detailed in that newsletter. It's yours free for the asking. Give us a call during the week at New Concepts at 952-922-2500. Ask for Courtney, and we'll make sure that you start receiving that newsletter. Well, I'd like to welcome back Leah Drabchek, who is a housing inspector with Coon Rapids. And Leah, at the last segment here, you were just beginning to give us an idea of sort of the process that you deal with in working with someone. Tell us, how does it begin? Do you send a letter? You don't just send a letter. I think you're a little bit more creative in how you begin to approach and connect with these people. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I think letter writing is highly ineffective. You get a letter from the city listing all these citation numbers and city ordinance numbers, and you're assuming, number one, that person can read and comprehend what's in your letter. There may be a language barrier that you don't know about. There may be mental health issues. There could be just many, many things. And so we find it's better to go in person. And we can really get the feedback when you're talking to someone, the nonverbals you can pick up on. I mean, we've had cases, we go out with fire department and police on every call to make sure everyone is safe. I've had instances where we've met someone at the door and the first words out of her mouth are, "I'm going to kill myself." So we need to make sure we make that person safe so the officer can then put this person on a hold, so we make sure they get the immediate attention that they need so no one is getting hurt. We've had cases where we knock on the door and I just say, "Hi, I'm Leah. I'm here from the city, and we want to make sure your house is safe." She came running out the door hugging the firefighter and said, "I have prayed and prayed for someone to help me, and now you're here."
Really?
So it's amazing. And sometimes, they slam the door in my face, and I got to work a little harder. But I always go back, and I've been doing this for over 5 years. I have never had to get a search warrant. I don't believe in it. I think it's invasive, unless it was something dire. But I'd rather work with people and get them to trust me and work together. They have to be part of the solution. We can't just throw money at it. We can clean it out. We haven't taught them anything. Right? So we have to continually educate people. We meet sometimes off-site for coffee. How's it going? Where's your anxiety level? What can I do different? And it may be something simple, like they'll tell me, "You talk with your hands too much, and I hate it. So I'll hold a pen next time." I mean, it's something simple, but to that person, imagine a stranger coming into your home and telling you can't live the way you live. I can't even imagine what that would feel like. So we try to make it as personal as we can and make them safe.
It does sound like this is something that is a little bit time intense. How much time do you spend on the average with an individual before you begin to see results?
It depends on the person. I mean, we've had cases where I've gone there, and you have to start clean every time with a clean slate because, you're just getting to know this person. There's times where it takes 6 months. But then there's times we come back we make our initial contact, and we are in contact every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks I'm at the door with a scheduled inspection. I also give every client my cell phone number so they can call me anytime that they run into something that they need me for. And sometimes at that 2 week mark, the house is clean in 2 weeks. And sometimes Most of the time it's longer, but they're learning, and the areas that are clean stay clean.
Good.
So we do a lot for maintenance, and that's a success. Getting your area clean and keeping it clean is success.
Now, the Star Tribune article indicated that just this year alone was the number, is this correct, that you've dealt with over 75 homes with this issue, and as of this date, all but 11 have been resolved?
Yes. And the 11 that are open, we're still working. They're just not closed yet. We're just not quite there yet.
Full accomplishment. I congratulate you.
Thank you. It's not just me. I rely on everyone from our Public Works Department. Police and fire are outstanding in providing their support. All the management team, the building inspectors, everyone. Anoka County is phenomenal with their resources. We're all on a first-name basis. They may call, and for clients that have children involved or pets or vulnerable adults, we all work together.
Now, Tony, weren't you saying that you had been talking to other officials about this kind of issue, and other people had referred to and dropped Leah's name in the conversation too? Is that right?
Yeah, I teach, as you know, quite a bit at the Multi-Housing Association, and I was able to meet some of the city inspectors from the city of Robbinsdale. And when I followed up with them about future classes, they mentioned you, Leah, as someone that was really a great source of information and very knowledgeable about all inspection issues.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah, that was Brian Ringham.
He's wonderful.
In Robbinsdale. He's very highly of you.
Well, let me ask you this, Leah. Is there in your dealings with individuals, is there a similar profile that you see more often than not with the type of person that is a hoarder? Is it an age thing? Is there anything at all that has any commonality with it?
Well, the research that I have read, and when I do all this research, I always ask the person, we have kind of an exit interview when we're done with the client to see if I'm on base or not. Because I think for everything I'm teaching them, they're teaching me. So they have as much information as I have about their disease that I have to learn from them. So it's really an open exchange. So really not. Most people are single simply because you don't have to navigate the conditions of the home with someone else. You don't have to compromise. So typically people are single. The male and female seem to be about even. The youngest hoarding house, the owner I've ever dealt with, was about 32. Oldest was about 94. So it's really all over. Most people are educated, college-educated, professional people who function very well in their careers. It's just this little home glitch that kind of gets them in the end. And it's mostly attributed to obsessive-compulsive disorder and decision-making. The decision-making is a huge part of it.
See, I wondered if it was maybe a lot of guys, because I think that there has been just a lot of the institution of marriage has done a great job in cultivating and refining men who are big flops.
Well, I think women are more apt. I think women
Your wife will be gratified. I'm sorry. I was trying to make a joke for Jean. I'm sure your wife will be gratified to hear that that's your opinion.
Yes. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Leah.
I think women are more apt to ask for help. Men won't even ask for directions. Yeah. They're not going to stop and ask me for help typically. So I think more women are open to having outside help than men are.
I saw this, unfortunately, very close to home here, just in my own family. My father passed away 5 years ago. My mother passed away 15, 16 years ago. And there was a big difference that last 10 years where he was alone by himself. And he got to a point where he didn't allow my sisters and myself to even come into the home. He'd come out, and we saw at the very end one of the reasons why. I think as an elderly person, he was getting to a point where just dealing with life was a little bit a little harder for him. I mean, this was a man who was a Marine, a school teacher, a very disciplined man all his life, but the everything was neat. I don't think there was garbage that way, but in terms of newspapers, letters, things like that, that's what we saw typically just piled up everywhere. And there was just kind of sort of the article in the Star Tribune referred to it as a goat path, where you just kind of walk through a home.
Right.
And so
that is the majority of what we find. And especially with seniors, I think there's a pride issue there and an independence issue. And we work directly with, her name is Ann Kuzi. She's in our senior department at the City of Coon Rapids. And we work with her directly. She has a group called Chores and More, and it's senior outreach. So, and we work with Anoka County. Maybe this person isn't a candidate for assisted living. They just need someone to come in every 2 weeks to help them with light housekeeping. That is a better option for them than assisted living or a nursing home because it's not appropriate for them yet. So we try to get people in contact with these resources to make their life better.
Now, the other part that you do as well is besides these great resources that might be a city or county or private organization, you try to get people connected just even with their family and church and friends as well, right?
Yes. There's a lot of isolation for people, and they feel like hoarding is very shame-based. I've had more people tell me, I'm so ashamed. I don't want my kids to see me like this because I'm ashamed. And my response is, your children have contacted me to help you. And what that says to me is you did a tremendous job raising your kids because they are caring and loving and worried about you. Yeah. So for everything you've done for them as their mother, they want to do back for you as, your children. And just sometimes hearing it from someone who's not that close, a family member, me as a stranger, sometimes it's easier to hear than from someone you love.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm more than happy to facilitate that way.
Yeah. Well, that's a great approach and to do in a very respectful way, and I think that's very important.
Well, I'm just so impressed with the creative thinking and creative efforts for this solution, Leah. It's really refreshing to come across that.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm astounded. I don't really think it's all that unique, but it's what we do every single day.
Yeah.
And I consider myself very blessed because I enjoy my work. I enjoy meeting people and facilitating that change to make their lives better. It's great for me, too.
Well, in closing here, Leah, what advice would you give if someone is concerned about an elderly parent or in a neighborhood and there's someone who seems just a little bit reclusive and they're concerned about this? What would be your first recommendation approach? Where should they go?
I would say depending on your municipality, if you're outstate and you don't have city staff dedicated like Coon Rapids does, I would start with your county to see if they have any resources available to you. If they do not, I would go to, every city would have a building official and see what their programs are. I teach all over to other cities what we do in Coon Rapids. So if they don't know, they can call me. I'm always happy to help anybody. After the Star Tribune article, I had a woman call me from Tampa, Florida, because she read it online, asking me to help her with her son. So, and I was able to get her in contact with someone locally that would be able to help her. So anytime I can be of help, I'm more than happy to do it.
Well, folks, we have been talking to Coon Rapids Housing Inspector Leah Drabchek extraordinaire. And I mean that sincerely. Leah.
Thank you. You're too kind.
Thank you so much for taking time on your Sunday morning here to be part of the show.
Oh, anytime. Thank you so much.
Okay. Folks, when we come back, we've got more. Remember, I was talking before at the beginning of the hour, in the state of Nevada, there's this new deal where the state legislature is saying, wait a minute, homeowner association, you can't collect more than a certain amount in reimbursement for the collection fees that you've paid out to try and get a delinquent homeowner to pay you back. What do you think of that? Is that reasonable or is that unreasonable? We're going to talk about that, plus your questions and comments to 651-289-4488. We'll be back after these messages. You're listening to Where You Live on AM 1280, The Patriot.